What do you call a married man who seduces two schoolgirls from difficult backgrounds, gets one pregnant, and then wheedles both into a polyamorous relationship? Great subject for comedy, isn't, perhaps, the obvious answer. But when Rita, Sue and Bob 2 came out in 1987, that's how it was greeted, as a bawdy, fresh, rollickingly funny drama. The storyline itself was clearly shocking. The two girls meet seedy old Bob through babysitting his children, and at 16 are virtually children themselves, but somehow it managed also to be thrilling, if only because Rita and Sue weren't like the female characters we mostly saw on screen. Tough, exuberant, and resourceful, they didn't come across as victims, and it was their friendship with each other, not their fling with Bob, that formed the emotional heart of the film. Although in hindsight, I suspect not all the men glued to the infamous threesome scene in the back of his car were getting that early feminist message. But anyway, Andrea Dunbar wasn't holding them up as role models. Rather, she was making a point about what Thatcher's Britain did to working-class northern communities and about the meager economic options available to girls like Rita and Sue, for whom a randy older man with his own house and car could have been a ticket out. She was simply asking audiences to understand that sometimes life is complicated. And now, it is more complicated still. This week the Royal Court Theatre, whose artistic director, Vicky Featherstone, has led campaigns against sexual harassment in the industry in the wake of the Harvey Weinstein affair, cancelled a touring production of the original play on which Rita, Sue and Bob 2 was based, on the grounds that staging a story about grooming and abuses of power on young women under its roof felt highly conflictual. What was lost in the subsequent furor about artistic censorship was that the Royal Court wasn't saying the play was morally beyond the pale, or shouldn't be staged anywhere. It was simply acknowledging the elephant in its own room, the fact that the play has close associations with Max Stafford Clark, formerly artistic director at the Royal Court, who would have co-directed this revival, too, had he not been accused of sexually inappropriate behavior himself. It's not hard to grasp why, in a climate where actresses are being publicly asked to defend working with Roman Polanski or with Woody Allen, it felt compelled to take a moral hard line. But theaters haven't stopped staging Othello because of its racist overtones, or Ben the Taming of the Shrew because it now reads like a tale of emotional abuse. They've simply found new ways of staging old texts that challenge some of the underlying assumptions. In the same way, our greater understanding of grooming, the knowledge that girls who come across as tough and resourceful can still be vulnerable, that exploitation isn't always recognized as such by its victims, shouldn't spell the end for stories like Rita and Sue's.